welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. I see in the news today that Supreme Court Justice Scalia, in an interview in Great Britain, said that in some instances torture is acceptable, and that it would be ridiculous to say that it could not be used in certain circumstances. Of course, he was quick to qualify this by saying that it was difficult to determine exactly what those circumstances are, how imminent the threat was, and how much torture would be allowed. But the very fact that we have a U.S. Supreme Court justice coming down on the side of torture should be enough to give us all pause. Even President Bush today, who is notoriously upbeat when it comes to talking about the economy, was forced to admit that we're facing a troubling time, or a time of uncertainty. Now, what amazes me the most whenever there's talk about the economy is that there is still this great argument going on about whether or not we're in a recession or not. And I ask you, just like I ask myself, where are we when it comes to the economy? My dollar doesn't buy the same thing that it bought last year. There are more people who are unemployed. There are more people who are poor. The federal deficit is higher. The federal debt is higher. The subprime mortgage market is just beginning to affect the economy in this country, and is starting to ripple outward a little bit to affect the European markets as well, and eventually it's going to create a firestorm. Now, Warren Buffett today boosted the stock market a little bit by saying that he will back some bond insurers, and this gave a little bit of an upbeat swing to the stock market today. But ask yourself, like I said, where are you at when it comes to the economy? Are we in a recession? I say we're in a recession, and I say we're headed for a depression. Probably the worst since we've seen since the Great Depression, I would imagine, and possibly even worse than that for overall loss, because we're talking about a great deal of difference in overall liability today as compared to the liability that was present during the Great Depression. Also, sadly, the U.S. Senate passed the FISA law with the retroactive telecom immunity, despite overwhelming objection from civil rights groups, namely the ACLU and others, myself included, who have repeatedly called, wrote to, and emailed the senators in an effort to at least get them to remove the telecom immunity for telecom companies who participated in wiretapping against American citizens without any court order. And this would go back to as far as September 11, 2001. I think this sets another dangerous precedent, and I think it only serves to illustrate where this Congress is going when it comes to advancing more and similar laws. And remember, there are a couple of bills within the House and the Senate which address further erosions of our civil liberties and privacy rights. Don't quit, because we almost, and almost is not good enough, but we almost did cause the Senate to capitulate on the FISA issue. And I think if more people get involved, and if more people put pressure on their congressmen to drop these laws and to not support them, that we may, in the end, get some positive results out of it. And in one final bit of news regarding the internet, Comcast, cable internet service provider, gave some comments to the FCC in which they defended their practice of managing internet traffic by disabling certain file sharing activities of its customers, claiming that this activity slowed down the connection in the neighborhoods in which this activity was going on. The first time that they've come out and actually said what it is that they do and defended it against repeated complaints that were filed with the FCC against Comcast. I say that sets a dangerous precedent as well, because it, in effect, if the FCC goes along with Comcast's view of this, it states that an ISP can determine what to block and what not to block in an effort to, quote-unquote, manage its internet traffic. And this could, in effect, block certain activities that people routinely engage in. That is streaming video, file sharing between one computer and another, not to mention downloading information off of the internet or even uploading, and perhaps even affecting such services as YouTube. So that should give you some pause as well. We're still facing a lot of very difficult and dangerous practices, not only from Congress, but also from corporations and from this government.